Hi guys, and welcome to a new review video. Today I'm going to be reviewing another Bourjois foundation. This time it's the City Radiance foundation. This foundation comes in a standard 30ml squeezy tube. Luckily it comes sealed, which I really appreciate. As you can see, I haven't even opened it yet. This foundation currently retails at £9.99. It comes in 6 shades, which again is just not exactly the widest range of shades. And the average star rating is 4 out of 5 stars. The shade I will be trying is 02 Vanilla. One of the unique features of this foundation is that it comes with SPF 30, which is a pretty high SPF for a foundation. Honestly, I can't off the top of my head think of a drugstore foundation that would come with such high SPF, which is amazing. According to Bourjois, it also provides a barrier against pollution, hence the name City Radiance. Keeps skin hydrated for 24 hours. It provides a light to medium coverage with luminous finish. Now, I've read a bunch of reviews primarily on Boots website, and as with pretty much any product, the opinions are very much divided. People who like the foundation praise it for good coverage. Apparently it has a nice smell, provides a radiant and glowy finish, doesn't cling to dry patches, and is buildable, has a good SPF, and apparently a little goes a long way. Now, among the people who did not like this foundation, the most common complaints were that it wears off fast, makes skin look greasy after only a couple of hours, clings to dry patches, which is exactly contrary to what the people who like the foundation said. Apparently some people had a mattifying effect rather than luminous or glowy. There's not enough coverage. It apparently sinks into fine lines and pores. It becomes patchy after a few hours. And some people also complain that texture is quite thick. I have tested a number of Bourjois foundations in the past. I think I've tested so far about 4 of their foundations, and out of those 4 I was really happy with 3 of them. The more recent one, Air Matte foundation, that wasn't to my liking. It's a mattifying foundation, so that might be the reason. I don't normally wear mattifying foundations, although I actually need to mattify especially my oily T-zone. This foundation, on the other hand, apparently has a luminizing and glowing effect, which I don't mind, although as you can see my skin is already just about glowy enough. On top of that, as always, I have already applied a moisturizer, serum and oil to my face, hence the glow. Similarly to my previous videos, on one side of my face I will be using a brush, on the other side a beauty blender, just to compare and see which one is more efficient and whether the finish will look different depending on the tool that you're using. As previously mentioned, it comes sealed, which I love. I can't praise brands enough for sealing their products. It makes me feel so much better about using their products when I know that nobody would have had a chance to test it. Not to mention that the moment you really open a product, that's when the countdown begins to the expiry date. Because this is the first time I have opened this foundation, I suspect that I should have at least 6 months from this point on, even though I bought it already a few months ago, although I tend to use my foundations for way longer than what the brands normally recommend. Okay, let's see how thick it is, because some people complained about thickness. I wouldn't say it's very thick, but it is thicker than I expected, to be quite honest. Let's just start with the blender on this side of my face. Just wondering what the color is gonna look like. I kind of like this color. It's not very yellow. Some people actually really praised this particular shade in the reviews, because apparently the vanilla shade is the perfect match for a number of people. Now, last time I also got a vanilla shade in the Air Matte, and that was maybe just a touch too orange for me. Anyway, let's just start blending. I need a mirror. Okay, blending is going really well. It's actually really fast. I do like the smell. It smells of flowers, like reminds me something to do with summer flowers. Oh wow, it's actually already blended. It's pretty much invisible on my face, which is brilliant. It literally took no time. I'm blending it now because I'm just feeling anxious that I didn't blend it enough. I don't normally apply foundation this fast onto my face. It looks super natural. There is definitely a little bit of glow there, although with the harsh lighting that I have, pretty much any foundation would have some glow. I would say it's medium coverage at best, just because I can definitely still see my spots and I can see my acne scars, which is actually quite normal, but I'd say that with some foundations I can get away with wearing just the foundation with no concealer. With this foundation I would definitely need a concealer. A super fast application with the blender. Let's now try the brush. I really like the shade as well. It has yellow undertones, but it's not orange tone, and so far I would definitely agree that a little goes a long way. I can't believe this, but I'm done. I'm done with blending. I mean, this is pretty incredible, because I don't think that I have had a foundation that would blend this easily. And we're done with application. So this is the blender side. And this is the brush side. It blends out in no time. It gives a really natural finish. It gives a little bit of a glow. With the harsh lighting, again, the glow will be exaggerated, but I can definitely see the difference between what my face looked like without this foundation and what it looks like now. In my view, it didn't really cling to any of my drier patches. It is visible on my nose and a little bit of my forehead, just because my skin is peeling in those areas. That is something that I don't think even the best foundation would be able to handle. I have absolutely no complaints about the texture. I think it's the perfect texture. It's sort of in between. It's neither too runny nor too thick. Overall, I am super happy with this foundation. I think it just looks so nice. It's so quick to apply. It is, from my first impression, is that it's perfect for an everyday use. I would normally apply powder, concealer and the rest of my makeup, but for the sake of this foundation and to make sure that nothing will interfere with its wearability and longevity, I will not be applying any other makeup on my face today. I will just stick to what I already have, which is just the foundation, and I will see how it wears. I will see how it looks in the evening, so I will keep it on for about 8 hours. It doesn't really make any claims in terms of how long you can possibly wear it, which is absolutely fine. I'd rather a foundation not claim that it lasts 20 hours than claim that it does and be gone after 8. I really like this foundation. This is obviously just a first impression, so I will see how it wears throughout the day. That will be my wear test, but then I will obviously continue wearing this foundation for a number of weeks to see how it actually performs on an everyday basis and also how it looks with other makeup products. So I will see you in a moment with the conclusion to the wear test. See you in a bit. Right guys, so it has been 10 hours since I applied this foundation and I am actually really happy with it. I know that I look really shiny, but I have a really bright light right in front of my face, so no wonder. The foundation is definitely still there. It still looks pretty good actually, although my face is definitely quite oily, as you can also see on the camera, especially in the T-zone, but overall it is oily. It has rubbed off a little bit from my more of a problem areas like my nose and around here. I would say probably it has started to vanish pretty much from all areas of my face at this point, but it is still there. I can still tell that I do have foundation on my face. At this point, with no foundation or with some other foundations that I have tested, my face would have been really red and just looking pretty bad. Not that it's looking great now, but it is looking better than I expected. So based on this one-day wear test, I don't think I would agree with almost any of the negative claims mentioned in the reviews that I have read. So I don't think it clung to my dry patches too much. My skin is oily, but it's less oily than I expected. The foundation is still there. It's not in perfect condition, nowhere near, but nevertheless, it's still there and it doesn't look too terrible. I don't think that it mattified my face, to be quite honest. At least in the intro part of this video, I think you could tell that my face was quite shiny. So I don't think that I would agree with that part either. And I haven't actually noticed this foundation sinking into my pores, which is often the case with a lot of other foundations I have tried, because I have large pores, especially on my nose and on my cheeks. So all in all, I would say I am really happy with this foundation. I am actually quite excited to continue using it for a number of weeks, because before I provide you with the final conclusion to how I feel about this foundation and its features, I will be wearing this foundation for a number of weeks. Now, in terms of whether the sponge or the brush application are better, I don't see any difference whatsoever. I think that it blended out really well with both tools, and I don't see any difference in terms of wearability or longevity of this foundation. So overall, I am surprised, but I am quite happy with this foundation after one day, 10 hours of wearing it. It's been a while. In fact, it's been so long that it's not only that I've had the time to test this foundation, I've actually managed to use it completely up. And let me tell you that the conclusion to this review is quite surprising even to me. In the intro, I was pretty happy with this foundation, pretty much every single aspect of it, and I remember I didn't agree with any of the negative reviews that I have found online regarding this foundation. And after using up the whole little tube of this foundation, I am actually shocked how bad this foundation is. In fact, this is possibly the worst foundation I have ever tried. At this point, I am not even sure why it has such good ratings, because it does have 4 out of 5 stars. And yet I really cannot think of one good thing that I can say about this foundation. And let me tell you why. I will start with the things that I can't possibly really comment on, so I don't really know whether I would agree with these or not. So the foundation description states that this foundation protects against pollution. I can't possibly tell that. I think that unless you examine your skin under a microscope, probably you wouldn't be able to tell either. Second claim is that it keeps your skin moisturized for 24 hours. I use far too many products morning and evening to be able to really tell what this foundation on its own would do. However, because you obviously have to remove it eventually in the evening, it will strip your skin a little bit. The sheer process of removing this foundation will probably remove most of the moisturizing benefits, if it has any benefits. Again, I have not noticed, so I can't possibly comment on that. What I can actually say is that it made my skin look really greasy within a really short space of time. So when I applied this foundation initially in the first video in the wear test, I was actually really happy. It applied in no time. It lasted quite okay throughout the day, but that was a really easygoing, chill out day that I had. So I could possibly say that this foundation would be alright if you do not need it to last very long, maybe a few hours. In my case, when I returned to work in the morning, was pretty okay with what it looked like. I was actually quite happy, I'd say. And then after a few hours, I remember looking at myself in the bathroom mirror, and I was absolutely horrified. I do not recall ever seeing a foundation looking this bad on my face in my life. First, as I said before, my skin was very greasy. It was really, really oily. In my case, it's actually quite rare nowadays that I take a pretty good care of my skin for my skin to become this greasy. Second, it looked as if this foundation, the formula has separated. I almost looked as if I had some thick orange powder on my face that, due to the excess oil, has moved around a lot. So there were places on my skin where I couldn't really see any foundation at all, and then there were places on my skin where it looked as if I actually powdered only those places with a really inadequate cheap powder. And because it seems that the shade maybe deepened after a few hours, those places looked a little bit orange, so they were really visible on my skin. So that really horrified me. Then it really exaggerated any dryness that I had on my skin. So any remotely dry areas became really visible, and they just looked as if I actually overpowdered them, and that powder was just very, very visible at that point. Another thing that I initially considered to be a good thing is that this foundation comes with SPF 30, which is a fairly high SPF considering that some or maybe most foundations don't even have an SPF. With this foundation, the SPF turned out to be, I'd say, counterproductive. I can't possibly say whether it protected my face from the sun. I didn't see any burns on my skin whatsoever, and it is possible that it has actually protected my skin initially. Now, as we know with SPF, you are meant to reapply it quite frequently, which can be a bit of a challenge because if you are a woman wearing makeup, then you would have to apply SPF on top of your makeup throughout the day, which I don't think would be a good idea. So what happened after a few hours with this foundation is that it not only became greasy, it not only clung to the dry patches on my skin, it not only separated into, I suppose, the foundation and powder on my skin, but on top of that, I looked white as a ghost. If you are familiar with, I suppose, the kind of SPFs that we had maybe 20 years ago, which you or I at least applied when I went to the beach and I didn't wear any makeup, I looked horrific because it was literally a white cast on my face, which just didn't look natural. It looked pretty bad. This is what this foundation has done to my face. So after a few hours, I could see this white cast on my face, which I've never had with any other foundation. It just looked absolutely horrific. I, for the first time in a very long time, literally felt embarrassed by the way my makeup looked. So overall, I just can't possibly envisage myself ever wanting to wear this foundation ever again. I have used it up. So I started using it on days when I didn't really have much to do, and it lasted okay for the few hours that I needed it to. But I would not ever wear this foundation ever again to, let's say, an office, to an air-conditioned space where you need your makeup to last 10-12 hours, and I can't possibly recommend this foundation to anyone. I mean, I do wear SPF under my foundation, and I have yet to see any of my foundations looking as bad as this one did after literally only a few hours. So after I have given you my reasoning for why I feel that this is the worst foundation I have ever tried, I can only add that it really made no difference whether I applied it with a sponge or a brush. The application was actually very, very quick, and that was probably the best part of wearing this foundation at all, that I really didn't take much time to apply it to my face, and it looked pretty good for maybe an hour or two afterwards. So this is it for this review, guys. I do feel a little bit as if the intro to this video was a little bit misleading because I did praise this foundation. I was genuinely happy with it, but maybe this basically speaks for why first impressions can often be very misleading. It is probably a good idea to wear a product for longer because it's only then that you can really see how it performs in all sorts of different circumstances. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this review useful, then please give it a like and please subscribe to my channel for more reviews similar to this one, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.